Is Disney based? I know for the past few years, they've been one of the largest corporations in the world pushing leftist nonsense, but the moves they've made in the last few months have a lot of people talking. They dropped a storyline in one of their new shows that involved a transgender character and replaced her with one who is overtly Christian, the first Christian character in 2 decades. They then replaced the entrance of It's a Small World with a group of red-headed children who now sing This is MAGA Country. And if you listen to the audio track closely, you can actually hear Jussie Smollett in the background weeping over his lost career. Disney is finally learning an important lesson, that lecturing people while running your intellectual property into the ground isn't actually a very effective business strategy. But before I start celebrating, I'm going to wait and see if the lesson actually holds, because I'm convinced that this is actually just a ruse. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Hello. On today's show, we have a couple fun topics we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're going to talk about Disney, as you know from the intro. We're going to talk about the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, and we have to talk again about the stock market. I know we've been talking a lot about the economy, but that's just the way it is. It's an important thing. It's win or lose for most politics. Oh, first I think we're going to say hi to Winnie. Hello, Winnie. How are you? Do you want to say hi to your fans out there? We all know why they watch the show. Oh, no. I guess not. Oh, here we go. Say hello. No? Okay. So the stock market's important. It's win or lose in politics. We all know this. We all acknowledge this. Inflation was why Donald Trump won the election more than any other single issue, though some of them you'd make an argument about. It was the stock market. It's important. So we're going to talk about it once again. But first, my favorite comment from last week comes from Mandy Karansky, N30, who said, exactly, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, end quote. That's right, Mandy. This is true. She's referring, of course, to Zelensky. And I know that a lot of American children learn this lesson. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. I know that it's very important as an American idiom. But Zelensky, it's remembering, he grew up in Ukraine. It's possible they do things differently over there. It's possible that they always bite the hand that feeds them. Although he did issue a letter of apology to President Trump, so maybe not. Anyway, great topic, great comment, and I'm glad to see Zelensky possibly learned a lesson there. Anyway, now on to topic 1, Disney going based. Do I really think that? No, of course not. I don't think that at all. I think they've done a couple things since November of last year that seem to be like politics. They say in the primaries, you always run to the edge, but in the actual general, you have to run to the middle. I think what Disney is trying to do right now is just tack back to the middle. They have gone very far left in a lot of their programming in recent years, and you've seen a lot of backlash on this company, this American institution, basically, that for years had not necessarily a monopoly, but they clearly were the front runner in children's entertainment. And it's hard to say that they're not still, but their share of the market has decreased dramatically. And I think that that's reflected a little bit in their stock prices, though it's hard to just put this on one single issue as to why their stock price has done what it's done. But you've seen they've lost money when they ventured into politics. They recognize this. No matter what the share is, no matter how much money it is, they lose money when they dip their toe into politics, especially in Florida. So I don't really believe that they're all of a sudden turning conservative. That's not what's happening. But they have done some things that clearly are trying to capture the middle of America again. And what am I talking about specifically? So there's a show called Win or Lose. They were supposed to, in this new show, have a transgender storyline from one of the characters. They completely cut it from the show. They had a transgender voice actor who they fired who was going to voice the character. The whole story arc of that character was cut. And they instead replaced it with the character who is the first overtly Christian character in almost 2 decades. And this character in one scene specifically is praying to God about something. And so it's like a character hasn't preyed on screen in again 2 decades. I can't remember the last movie that did this. I was going to look it up, and then I just totally forgot until right at this moment. But it's been, I know it's been 20 years, they said, so it's been a long time. And so this is, they fire the transgender actor, they cut the transgender storyline, they replace it with an overtly Christian character for the first time in 20 years. And then in November, they actually pulled an episode from the TV show. It's in the Marvelverse called Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I've never heard of it, but apparently it's in the Marvelverse. And they pulled that episode because it too was going to feature a trans character, and they were like, "All right, we don't want to get into this topic anymore." Disney, by the way, people are upset on the left about this, acting like Disney's doing some giant. Disney's a bigoted company, really, is what it's coming down to. They're acting as though Disney isn't the most gay-friendly company in the entire world. I think if we look this up right now, we would probably find that it would consistently rate at the top of gay-friendly companies in the world. They're not bigoted. What they're trying to do is avoid controversy, and that is just by dipping their toe into the transgender conversation. They have lost money and they've lost market share, and their job as a company is not to educate the public on transgenderism. It's to make money and provide good children's entertainment to families. That's their goal, and so they've done a terrible job. They've taken their largest franchises. Disney owns some of the largest intellectual property in the world, and they are recognizing that while you're able to coast, imagine this for a second. Let's take Star Wars, for example, because Star Wars is the most obvious example. So Disney owns Star Wars. Star Wars is one of the most beloved franchises that you'll ever find. People who love Star Wars love Star Wars. The original trilogy is great. I actually like The Phantom Menace of the prequels. I'm not a big Star Wars person in general, but I like The Phantom Menace. It's probably my favorite of any of the movies, really. I think it's pretty good. The other prequels, not so much. I haven't ever seen any of the other ones. I've seen those 6 movies, but I haven't seen any of the other newer ones. So everything I'm getting, notedly, is secondhand from everything else. But these new movies they're not great. They're terrible. And especially since they put someone in charge. But here's the thing I want to get back to real quick. Imagine this. So you have this franchise that is beloved, and what you've done is you took all the characters, all the people that people loved, and you made them worse in the new ones. And you're coasting off of this high image that this intellectual property has. Yet you're doing a bad job. You're running it into the ground. And you can only coast off of the good word, the good reputation for so long. That's all you can do. Because at a certain point, people recognize that you're not putting out quality. You're putting out crap and putting it in a quality box. And when that happens, people stop tuning in. And so that's what has been happening with the Star Wars franchise. They have done a terrible job of running this and making good characters and good storylines, and they've made it really bad. And I'm not a huge Star Wars person, so I can't really reflect too much on exactly what they've done. But I do know some of the controversy that surrounded the movies. And I mean, for example, they had an Asian character that people didn't like, and people were saying it's because she's Asian, and I heard it's because she's terrible. And it's the same with Finn, who is played by a black actor. People were saying, well, the people don't like Finn because he's black. And it's like, well, I heard that his movie wasn't very good, or the movies that he is in are just not very good. And then they had another woman lead, and people didn't like the movie, and they said it's because she's a woman. And every time that people have criticisms of the movie, it tends to revolve around, well, Star Wars fans are just toxic. They don't like fill in the blank, Asians. They don't like women. They don't like black people. And I'm like, it just annoys me from the outside, because I could imagine, and I'm trying to think of a franchise that I really love. Well, actually, I have a good example now. Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. All right, that's the kind of nerd I am. You got your Star Wars nerds. You got your Lord of the Rings nerds. I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd. All right, look on the bookshelf here. You'll see a lot of Tolkien. I like Lord of the Rings. Rings of Power is terrible. It's a terrible show. That's what they've done. It's the same kind of deal. You just make it worse. And so when you have criticisms of a thing because you love a thing, which Star Wars fans love Star Wars, they don't want to see the show bad. I've seen clips from The Acolyte That's a terrible show, just in what I've seen. It's dumb. It's dumb. The chick cutting her hair with the lightsaber is stupid. All right, it's a dumb show. And yet, if you say that, people are acting, well, because it's female-driven. You don't like it. And no, that's not it. You made it bad. And that's what Disney is doing with their brand name. They have made their brand name worse. They've made Star Wars worse. They made Indiana Jones worse. They've done all these things. And the best, actually, I have this clip pulled up. This is very not safe for work, okay? But South Park did a fantastic job making fun of this phenomenon on their show ever since they put Kathleen Kennedy in charge of Star Wars, basically. So we're going to play. This sums up Disney for the past 10 years.
Is there a problem, people?
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Fuck Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her lame and gay!
Sure, yeah. Well, let's try that. Again.
Kathleen Kennedy is down on set right now ruining the new Bambi movie.
Put a dumbass woman in it, make it gay!
Bambi's a baby deer.
Fuck baby dear, put a chick in it, make her gay!
We've sent her away to have lunch at Spago. There you are, Miss Kennedy, the linguine and clam sauce.
Excuse me, I believe I asked you to put a chick in this and make her gay?
Yes, the chef was a little confused what you meant by that.
Means put a chick in the linguine and make her fucking gay! And I want it lame! Where?
That basically sums up Disney, especially the Star Wars franchise for the past. Put a chick in it, make her lame and gay. That kind of sums up what's going on and why people don't like it. It has nothing to do. I've always said this, and it drives me nuts. And actually, I was having a conversation with some people about this, and they were laughing because how worked up I get about this. It drives me nuts when things just are forced into storylines that don't need them. And I use The Last of Us as an example for this. That just drives me insane. You have 8 episodes of a TV show. And obviously The Last of Us is not Disney, but it illustrates the point. You have 8 episodes of a TV show. It's taken like 5 years for this next season to come out. So it takes a really long time to film. 8 episodes. 2 of the episodes of The Last of Us do not further the plot in any way, shape, or form. They're standalone episodes. They're flashbacks of things that don't do anything, and they're just gay. And there's an entire episode, I think it's the 4th episode or the 3rd episode of the season, where you got Ron Swanson and some guy, and it kind of does a whole backstory on their gay romance. It's a good episode, if you watch it, you say, oh yeah, this is fine. It does nothing to further the plot. Seriously, the whole plot of the thing, if you take that episode out, it doesn't change at all. It's just a standalone gay romance story. Okay, fine. Then I think it's the penultimate episode, the second to last episode of the season, you have another one where it's a flashback, and it's the lead girl, and it's about her gay romance that she also had. And once again, it's just a flashback episode. The whole episode is about this gay romance. And you have 8 episodes. You've devoted a quarter of the time to 2 standalone stories about gay romance. I have no problem with gay people or gay relationships, but when you just put it in everything, it's like, when was the last time you saw a major movie that, let's use TV shows. TV shows are a little worse. But when's the last time you had a TV show that didn't feature a gay character? Can you think of one off the top of your head that just doesn't have a gay character? Probably in the main cast. It's really difficult to do. Maybe some serious, gritty dramas. Certainly not a sitcom. Certainly not something you watch on any television channel below 100. They're just not a show that exists that doesn't have that in it. And again, it's not that it doesn't exist. It's not that you shouldn't put it in there or that we don't want it. It's just that it's forced into everything. And that's the part that people get annoyed about. So when Kathleen Kennedy says, put a chick in it, make her lame and gay, people don't dislike it because there's a chick in there who's gay. They dislike it because you're forcing it into things. So the Bambi example in that South Park clip is perfect because it wouldn't make sense for there to be a chick in there who's lame and gay, but yet that's what they want to do with Star Wars. They would put something in there, even though it doesn't make sense to the plot, even though it's just because they want to put it in there just to say, look, inclusivity. Inclusivity is fine if it makes sense to the plot. For example, the movie Moonlight. It's about a black man growing up in the city kind of wrestling with his identity as a gay man, okay? Obviously, there's going to be gay people in that story because that's the story. That's what it's about. That's it. Or if there's a character who happens to be gay, again, that's fine. But when you force it into things like Star Wars, where you don't need it to make the plot. You don't need it to be a thing. It rubs people the wrong way. It rubs me the wrong way, and I don't care one way or the other who people are attracted to or what they do in their lives. I don't care. But like The Last of Us annoys me because it's a great show. I want more episodes. Why is a quarter of the show dedicated to standalone gay romance? I want to see the zombie things, the monsters. That's what I want to see. And yet, so it's like that's when it gets to people and it gets to annoy them. Again, the standalone episode of The Last of Us with Ron Swanson is a great episode. It's sad. It's funny. It's got great parts. It's fine. Like I would watch that show if that was going to be the show. But the problem is that wasn't the show. It's a completely standalone episode within the plot that if you remove doesn't change the plot of the show whatsoever. It's backstory about some people who, spoiler alert for The Last of Us, are dead. They're dead in the show. They don't even exist in the real timeline of the show we're watching. It's all just a flashback to their gay love affair. And again, don't care, but why? Why are we dedicating a quarter of the screen time to this? And so anyway, I'm getting on a rant here. This thing gets me all worked up. It's just annoying. And that's why people don't like it. It's just because it's annoying, not because it happens to be gay. It's because it's annoying that you go, well, why is this in here? It doesn't make any sense to the plot. It's just annoying. And I've seen people, they're accusing Disney right now of trying to win over Donald Trump, as if Donald Trump's approval is what Disney is really after. And this is not what they're doing at all. America voted for Donald Trump. Disney is recognizing the reality on the ground, which is that 50% of the country doesn't really want to see this nonsense and doesn't really care about this or really doesn't care about politics being in their children's programming at all. And that's what they're going for. Disney doesn't want to be the next Bud Light. That's what it is. They don't want that to be their reputation. They don't want to be this company that doesn't cater to people. I've always said, if you run a business, if you're selling something, if you're providing a service, and you make your business doesn't have to be political, you should shut up. You really should, because I don't want to cater to people who have my beliefs, because the people who share all my beliefs is like one person. It's me. Nobody else believes what I believe about everything. I'm the only person who has all my beliefs. Everyone's going to disagree with me about certain things, and that's fine. But if I only sell to people who want to believe what I believe, I am doing myself as a business owner a disservice. When you dip your toe into politics, you are alienating your core audience. There are companies that I don't buy from. And I don't buy from them not because I don't agree with their politics, but really because they forced me to do it because they're just annoying. I don't eat Ben & Jerry's, for example. I would never pay for Ben & Jerry's ice cream because it annoys me. I really don't like them. I've eaten them, and even sometimes I will. It's not to say I'll never eat Ben & Jerry's, but if I have an option, I'm not going to pick them. I guarantee you I won't. Why? Is it because I hate the politics of Ben & Jerry's so much that I just will refuse to eat there? Not really. That's not really why. It's because I have other options, and I don't need to give money to people who don't like me. So I don't. And I'm like that with everything. Why? Ben & Jerry's, you could run your ice cream company, you could donate to your causes, you could do this and that. But when you put out a statement that's pro-Hamas and anti-Israel and all this, I go, why do I want to give you money? Why would I do that? That's all Disney's doing. They're saying, we shouldn't do this because, as Michael Jordan once said, Republicans buy sneakers too. Okay? That's incredibly insightful, and people should remember that. It's a bad business model to dip your toe into politics or make your business political if you don't need to be. Just like it's a bad idea to make your shows, anything, political if it doesn't need to be. I'm watching a show right now. It's kind of my background show. It's like the third season of Ted Lasso. The third season of Ted Lasso, the first two seasons, I love that show. I thought it was great. Thought it was funny. Thought it was heartfelt. Thought it had some good moments. I hated the third season. I hated it so much because it just made itself political. And you say, why did you do this? It's like all of a sudden in the third season, they had three different gay story arcs. They had, every time Trent Crimm's walking, he's walking around with a rainbow cup. It's just annoying. We don't want to be preached to. Disney is learning their lesson. Let's hope other businesses do as well. I don't want to buy, by the way, I don't want to buy Republican products most of the time. I don't want to buy conservative products. If I want toilet paper, I just want toilet paper. I don't want conservative toilet paper or liberal toilet paper. I just want to buy toilet paper. Okay? I don't want to be preached to. Getting my morality from corporations. If you want to get your morality from corporations, you're making a giant mistake in life. That is a terrible way to live. I don't care what Target thinks about morality. I don't care what Walmart or Charmin or Disney have to say about morality if they're going to tell me how to live. No, go to hell. I don't need you to instruct me on living a moral life. I need you to sell me the things that I want and then shut up. That's all I want. That's it. Anyway, oh man, this gets me all worked up. This topic in particular about being preached to, I don't like it. Don't preach to people. Okay, it's nice. Have conversations. It's nice to tell people what you think. Don't preach. Preaching is bad. Preaching doesn't actually help other people. You're not converting other people. You're not changing minds when you're lecturing other people about how they should and shouldn't behave. Conversation is a much better way to do that. Anyway, let's get on. How long did that take? Oh my God, 20 minutes talking about that. Okay, on to topic 2. Let's talk about the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. This is an interesting story. I'm sure maybe people out there, if you follow the news, I'm sure you've seen some stuff about it, but there's a lot of factors at play here, a lot of interesting things, and we're going to get into that because it kind of touches on immigration. It touches on free speech, all the fun stuff we talk a lot about. A little background. This guy who we're talking about, Khalil, he is one of the leaders of the pro-Hamas protests. They call him pro-Palestine. I call him pro-Hamas. Pro-Hamas protests that took place at Columbia University. He was one of the leaders. He was out there negotiating with the university. And he is a permanent green card holder, and he's married to an American citizen. He was here, I think initially was on a student visa and then became a permanent green card holder. Is it good to deport him for his pro-Hamas protests? It's a complicated question, but I'm going to say on a whole, yes, I do agree with it. And I'll play you a clip here of Marco Rubio, and then we'll talk about it here. Listen to this real quick.
When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, and which is how this individual entered this country, on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student, and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that. This is not about...
Okay, Marco Rubio nails it. That is about, there's almost nothing I could say that is better than that, because it really is what I believe. You do not have a right to come to this country and then try and undermine the country. You don't have a right to come to this country and support terrorism. You don't have a right to come to this country and commit crime. You actually don't have a right to come to this country at all. There's no one in the world who's entitled to come to the United States. There's no one entitled to a student visa. There's no one entitled to a work visa. These are privileges. And as a privilege, you should recognize that privileges can be taken away. Because again, it's not a right. We talk about the right of free speech. Well, guess what? The Constitution doesn't actually apply to the world. That's not true. It applies to the American government, and it applies to the American people. What are you doing, Kat? Trying to come up here? Come up. And so because of this, there's an argument. He's not an American citizen. He's not entitled to all the protections. He was here as a guest of the United States. And it's like inviting a house guest in, and they, I don't know, take their shoes off and kick their feet up on your desk and start clipping their toenails, you say, all right, well, you're not a very nice house guest. I kind of don't want you to stay in my house if you're going to be rude about it. I have rules in my house. This might come as a surprise to some people, but I have rules in my house as I'm very orderly. I don't allow alcohol in my home. I don't like it. I really don't. There make very few exceptions to this rule. And you can't, if you came in here and started smoking, I would be very upset. I would probably kick you out. I don't like these things in my house. So this guy comes to the country. He's invited here. He's on a student visa. He's a green card holder now. You're not entitled to stay. You don't actually have First Amendment protection. The government can't, it doesn't mean that the government has a right to do whatever they want to anyone who's not American. That's not what that's saying. There are things that restrain the government for this purpose. But what it is to say is that you don't get to just stay here. You can revoke a visa for any time. And actually, this is an important thing to note. Section 237 of the Immigration and Nationality Act permits deportation of lawful residents if the Secretary of State believes that their presence presents a risk of, and this is the quote, potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. If he doesn't want you here, you're out. The First Amendment is for American citizens. This is not a First Amendment issue. I know it seems like it is because he was protesting and he was saying what he wanted and this and that. But it is not a First Amendment issue because he's not an American citizen. He does not have that protection of First Amendment. This is the First Amendment, by the way. Here's the important thing to remember about the First Amendment. The First Amendment gives you the right to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the right to protest, freedom of religion, the freedom of the press. It gives you a couple things. The problem with Western civilization and the United States is that we don't recognize that certain things are a threat. And what the First Amendment is not designed for is to protect people who want to use these rights granted by the Constitution to undermine democracy. So you say, well, how is he doing that? Well, here's how. Imagine this. I'll paint you a scenario. You have, as they always, let's take it back just one step. Okay. So Islam as an ideology. Imagine that you have different groups of people. You have, in the very center, you have jihadists who use political violence against people they don't agree with, apostates and homosexuals. They want to kill people in the name of Islam. Okay, that's the center. Outside the center, imagine you have conservative Muslims. These are people who, they might hold 90 to 95% of the same beliefs as the people who believe in jihad, but they don't believe in political violence. If we let 100 million people in that circle into the United States, so we just took the country of Egypt, we took the country of Saudi Arabia, we imported them into the United States. They don't believe in violence. They're not jihadists, but they have views and beliefs that are antithetical to the United States. They don't believe in the equality of the sexes. They don't believe that things like homosexuality should be legal. They believe things that apostates is actually a crime punishable by death. In Egypt in particular, that's almost 100% of people who believe that. In the last poll I saw, you don't ever see those numbers, but almost 100% of people in Egypt, when polled, think that apostates should be put to death. So, no freedom of religion, no freedom of women, no 19th Amendment, no freedom of sexual orientation. So you have these people who come to the country. Yeah, let's say, again, we import 100 million people. They would use democracy to undermine democracy. They would actually use the power of democracy to vote to discriminate against other people, which is not the point of democracy. And so this is what we say when we're talking about the amendments are designed to protect people, but they're not absolute, because you can actually use some of these things to undermine the entire concept. So we invited a bunch of people here on student visas, and then they're working to overthrow the United States through nonviolent means. Not in the case of Colombia, which was actually a little bit violent, but we're playing the imagination game. They use nonviolence to try and undermine American democracy and change it to look more like a theocracy or whatever the case is that they're trying to do. And they want to live under Sharia law. You say, okay, well, this is clearly not what these amendments are designed to do. They're not designed to allow people to undermine the entire American system. So I see no problem with saying you're here on a student visa, you're a green card holder, you are behaving in a way that is antithetical to the United States creed and the United States system of government. You're openly supporting groups that we label terrorism as a United States government. Hamas is a terrorist organization. To support them means you're supporting terrorism. You're supporting people who rape women and murder babies. And so when you support those people, then you're not entitled to come to the United States and do that. We don't need to have people here who don't like America. If you don't like America, well, congratulations. You just bought a ticket back to, I think this guy's from Syria. You just bought a ticket back to Syria or Algiers, wherever it is you would like to be sent. There's your plane ticket. So I agree that there are some nuances here, but I would be very surprised if he doesn't wind up being deported. I think that there's a very strong legal case that the federal government has the right to deport people basically for whatever they want. And I kind of agree with that. I think that you don't have a right here. And basically you can be deported for whatever. Again, no person who's not an American citizen. And there's a difference, by the way. If you have American citizenship, that's a difference. You cannot deport American citizens. But this guy's not an American citizen. He's a green card holder. Again, that's a privilege. That's an honor. It's not a right. And I believe that the federal government's going to win, and he's going to wind up being deported. And let's hope that a lot of people take note, because we don't need people in America who don't like America. America's the greatest country. It's a beacon, the shining city on a hill. It's a beacon. We don't need people here who don't like it, because everyone wants to come here. And so everyone wants to come to America. And if you want to come to America and then complain, no, we don't need you. Kick rocks. So anyway, I think it'll be a good thing. We're going to obviously keep this topic in the cycle, because I'm going to be curious how it works out in the end and what the judges do and how all the appeals go. And it's kind of an important one, because it's going to determine whether the Trump administration has the right to just deport visa and green card holders that they think are a threat. So we'll keep that in mind. Anyway, let's go on to topic 3 and we'll make it a quick one. And we're going to talk about the stock market again. So my worries, as I've gone over, I think the last couple weeks, my worries are coming true, but also I, myself, am being undermined at the same time. Allow me to explain. On Thursday, the S&P 500 dropped more than 10% below its record high. This is kind of a big deal. It's a big drop. In fact, 10% of a loss is a big drop. It has a name. So when you get over a 10% drop in the market, we call it a correction. And I've been saying that the market was due for a correction. It was out. I actually think I said that last week. So I think I was a little, I'm not going to say clairvoyant, but all I'm saying is I went out and bought a couple lottery tickets, because I think I'm seeing just a little bit, just a touch. And so I basically said that we were due. We're due for a correction, and I was hoping it doesn't dip into a recession. So now we've seen the correction, and it's interesting. We talked about the PE ratio is all out of whack, and there was a couple things. I anticipated a dip, and let's just hope that this is the dip. This is it. We dropped 10%. We dipped a little. It's not going to be a further slide. We'll just hope that that's the case, because, as I said, I'm worried that it's just going to fall. I think that the part, though, that surprised me, the part that kind of undermines me a little bit, is my predictions on inflation. And I was very surprised. So inflation has come down. It's under 3%. It's 2.8. It's still too high. 2.8% is still a lot higher than it should be. But it's the lowest it's been in years, which is good, which is a good thing. Because if we can bring that number down without having to ratchet up the interest rates and really slow the economy, then we might actually be able to avoid a recession. We're going to have to wait and see, though. We don't know. Inflation came down. That's good. Obviously, Trump's talk of tariffs is making the market a little fidgety. They don't know what to do. They don't know to buy, to sell. They don't know what's going on. If they want to onshore manufacturing or continue to offshore manufacture, they don't know what to do, which is not a good thing in the market. I think Donald Trump's kind of might be shooting himself in the foot just a little bit with some of the tariff talk, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, because like I said, we had a correction. As long as we don't further nosedive, we should be fine. You never know exactly, but we're going to wait and see. I think it's a good thing. I think it'll be a good thing overall that we've gone through a slight correction, as long as, again, we don't dip into a full recession. And if inflation continues to come down, the economy might have a bit of a soft landing, which would be nice. But you never know. Obviously, this is a multi-factored thing to try and predict, so you never know what's going to change and what's going to happen and this and that. And I know people who watch the show, you routinely say, gosh, Tyler, you're just right about everything all the time. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is it. This is all we see. And you never know. As I said, we'll see. We're going to keep monitoring this, a lot like the previous story. So anyway, we are going to, what time are we at? Yeah, we're going to leave it there for the week. As always, this next week, I'm going to try. I think what I'm going to do, don't hold me to this, by the way, okay? I'm not saying this is set in stone, okay? I'm just throwing out ideas here. But on Mondays, I'm going to try. So I release a show every Friday. On Mondays, I'm going to start putting out extra shorts. And I was thinking, all right, here we go. I'm just going to get into it. Just another 1 minute. Let me hold you. So I do the show every Friday, the big show. On Monday, I'm going to release the first of the sort of the 1 minute movie reviews that we got going on. And then I've been thinking about doing, there's two things that were on my agenda. Actually, I guess technically three, if you want to count this other one. But you have the movie reviews that I've been wanting to do. The other two things that I've been trying to do, and I'm really going to make an effort as the year pushes in to do, one of which is more interviews. And if I get interviews, I would like to do them on Wednesdays. The same deal, release an episode on Wednesday and try and push into this market of trying to get more people on the podcast to talk about things, and whether it's new books that they have coming out. The St. Louis County Library always has authors in, so I think talking to authors is something that would really interest me as a writer, and I think that would be fun, talking to people in politics. So interviews. But the other thing I've been thinking about doing, and this is a little off of what the other show is about, because we're talking movies, we talk culture, we talk politics, we talk philosophy. I want to do a series, and I've been thinking about doing it, kind of like Father Mike Schmidt's Bible in a Year. I've been thinking about going over the first few books of the Bible, just a chapter at a time, but doing little 5-minute recaps of chapters. So, for example, you do a 5-minute video on Genesis 1. And you do these little breakdowns, which I think would be fun for me. And I think other people might enjoy it as well. So I think that would be something I want to do. And if I don't do interviews on Wednesday, I would do these 5-minute little Bible study things on Wednesday, which I think would be fun and I would really enjoy doing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still playing with that idea, so I'll figure it out. Anyway, these are the big plans. The big plans coming up for the podcast this year. We're starting with the movie reviews, and then we might move on to Wednesdays with our interviews - 5-minute Bible study. Anyway, we are going to leave it there for the week. As always, questions, comments, concerns, disagreements, arguments, ad hominems, whatever you want, put it in the comments on YouTube or Facebook or Rumble, and I will get back to all of you as I always do. And I hope to catch you guys next Friday. And until then, enjoy your week.